you're at right now. So yeah, this workshop is going to be about how to create resumes or CVs using R. So using the R programming language and a particular R package that is useful for that. So yeah, and this is intended to be fairly interactive, and it's very much intended to be like follow along, try to do it yourself. There probably will be some like installation problems and things like that. Like I'm definitely anticipating that. So we might have been spending a little bit of time helping people getting things running because there's not really like a perfect setup for doing this in R right now. So definitely ask everyone's patience with that. I'll go ahead to the next schedule. So yeah, this is an overall like overview of what we're going to be covering. We will, I'll introduce myself, have my helper introduce themselves, and then we will talk about what is some of the different options in R for creating resumes and sort of some of the pros and cons of them, and then why we chose or what we did for this particular workshop. And then I'll go over that R package and we will start to use it to create an initial sort of like blank template version of a resume. And then after taking a brief break, we will go back to sort of learning some of the ways that you can customize a resume, add your own information, and also change the formatting as you wish. And that will probably mostly be about it. We'll talk very briefly about like how to post these things online. And then if we have extra time, people can stay on and, as you're troubleshooting, we can like work on stuff together. So yeah, the times here are probably very loose depending upon sort of like how well this goes for people. Like I said, I think we'll probably have some installation issues. One of the other things I'll probably make use of a lot during this workshop, and I generally like to use, is to get feedback from y'all. It's really helpful for me if we can use the reactions in the Zoom platform. So I will periodically ask things like, if that worked for you, can you give me like a green check? If that didn't work for you, can you give me like a red X or some sort of negatory reaction? And so we're going to go ahead and practice that right now. And I will ask you all a question that will help me with running this workshop is, so have you ever used R before? If you have, go ahead and go to your reactions. Takes longer for me to get to, I think. So yeah, give me a reaction in Zoom. If you've used it before, you can do something like a thumbs up or a green check. If you've not, can you give me like the red X? So that'll kind of help give me an idea of where people are at. Okay, cool. Looks like most people have used R before. And like I had said in the sort of description of this workshop, it's not like totally necessary to have used R before, but it will be helpful just like to not have to think about that part of this as much as we go through this. So, okay. So yes, welcome. Just as a brief introduction of my group we're running this and what we're doing and why. So we are at the University of Arizona. We are called the CCT Data Science Team. And basically what we do is we try to help researchers learn how to apply reproducible programming best practices to their research, improve data pipelines and things like that. So we engage with researchers in a bunch of different ways. We have workshops like this one. Every Tuesday morning, we have drop-in hours. And then we sort of develop collaborative projects with people through our incubator, and then also longer term like funded projects. So there's a link on the side here to our website if you're curious about who we are, what we're doing, why. And so I'm going to open up our website so you can see what it looks like. But yeah, so I run the group right now, and then we have two of the folks in our group here helping. So Eric and Renata, if you want to really briefly introduce yourselves.
Sure. Hi, I'm Eric. I am a data scientist in the CCT data science team. Background as an ecologist, and I do data science stuff with all sorts of folks in Kales and extension offices and all that. That's it.
Yeah, I'm Renata. I'm also a data scientist with CCT. And yeah, my background is in computational ecology, a little bit of field work. And now I support research in ALVSCE.
Great, thanks, y'all. So yeah, if you have questions about some of the stuff we're doing in this workshop in particular or other related things, especially from poking around on our website, feel free to reach out to us, email, or come to a drop in ours or what have you. And I definitely recognize some familiar folks here who've attended some of our workshops and we've interacted with. So yeah, feel free to tell your friends and continue to come and talk with us about stuff. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and sort of dive into the content. Okay, before we start talking about installation stuff, the slides that we're looking at here are available online at this link. I will go ahead and put that into the chat so that people have access to it. Yeah, so that's got these slides and then all the links that are in them. A lot of it's, useful material to reference. And also after the workshop, I'll send out a sort of like post-workshop email with links to the slides and some other stuff. So don't worry if you don't catch it right now. Okay, so the installation stuff, hopefully everyone saw the installation email that I sent out a couple days ago. You're going to want to have R and RStudio installed or updated. If you already had it installed, this would be a good chance to update. And then the R package that we're using for this is called data-driven CV. So you need to have that installed. But as I said in the email, you're going to want to install that using our kind of my group's version of that, not the main version created by the main creator. And we'll talk a little bit more later about why we're doing that. But basically, the original version of this data-driven CV R package is not being maintained anymore. And so it doesn't really work out of the box because the last time that they made changes to it was 3 or 4 years ago. And the maintainer doesn't seem like they're responding to people's like pull requests or requests to like get it working again. So I went ahead and basically made a copy of what was existing and tried to fix it as best as I could. But it is possible that I did not catch everything because I only use a particular like operating system and like my setup is particular. And so it is possible this won't work for everyone right away. So we might have to deal with some troubleshooting. Oh, yeah, and in order to install using these commands, you need to have the DevTools R package installed.
I just checked an alternative if anybody doesn't have DevTools installed or has trouble installing DevTools is the pack package does work now. We tried it before and it didn't work. So I'll put an alternative in the chat if DevTools doesn't work for you.
Cool. Yeah, because DevTools is used for stuff beyond just installing R packages, and so it's like a lot heavier weight than we need for this particular purpose. So I'm glad that's working now. Okay, so with that said, oh geez. Okay, well, I guess if you have not done these things yet, if you want to do them when we sort of go through some of the introductory material, that would be great. And then we'll stop in a minute and make sure everybody has everything installed because we don't want to move forward until that's the case. Okay, so to cover what we are not going to be learning in this workshop, just in case you sort of were coming here for one thing and are not going to be getting that, we are not going to be talking about what your CV or resume should have in it. So this is not about the content. This is not about like how to write CVs for particular jobs or anything like that. If you want to know more about those things, there's a lot of resources on campus for this. I've linked to a couple of them. The SECD and then the career services in the graduate center. There are probably other places on campus too. I think staff council at U of A has been doing some like career development stuff, including resumes. So yeah, if you want to know what should go in your resume or CV, please find those resources. And yeah, I don't have expertise in that area, so don't trust me. The other thing we will not be learning is how to program using the R language. And so it seems like most people at least are already familiar with it. If you want to learn more about how to use R, especially in, starting off from the scratch. Jeff Oliver in the library is a great person to go to for that. And then we can also help people, especially as you get further along in your R journey. Okay, so with that, what will we be learning? So we will talk about all of the different R tools that currently exist for creating resumes in this more automated and data-driven way. And I'll go over at least what I've been able to discover about like the benefits and the difficulties of those different tools. And then we will also actually go through using this data-driven CV R package. We will create resumes and update them. So hopefully everybody will leave this with at least a partially complete resume that is customized with your information, and you've started to get exposed to like some of the ways to change the formatting. Okay, and so why are we using R to do this? So there's like a lot of different ways you can create resumes. There's a lot of tools out there, probably things I don't know anything about, including like, I have used Word documents in the past, probably like everyone here has at some point. But if you've done that, you know that getting the format right with those, especially those sorts of binary documents, can be very difficult. There tends to be like, if you put a little, kind of like the GIF says, if you put a little, new paragraph or line into your Word doc, it's probably going to totally screw up whatever your formatting was. So hopefully using these R tools, you can, kind of have the formatting what you want it to be, and you won't have to do so much sort of like fiddling and having things get all screwed up. The approach that we're using too, hopefully makes it really easy to add or update new information. So like if you finish a degree or you like have a job and you want to add it to your resume, hopefully this will make it a little bit easier because you can just add it to a spreadsheet. And then sort of a side benefit of this is that if you've not used tools like R Markdown or Quarto before, this is a way to improve your familiarity with those tools. And so those are kind of generally referred to as literate programming. We have a question here from Ryan. R script or R Markdown more appropriate? Appropriate for what? I guess I don't know what your question is. If you want to, for this exercise. So we're going to be using R Markdown for this, but there are going to be, there's an R script that has some functions in it that will run too. But this R package should like create all of that for you. Which makes me realize I think R Markdown is probably installed as a dependency on data-driven CV, so everyone probably will have it, but if not, we'll make sure everybody gets that installed. Yeah, good question. Okay, does anyone have any questions at this point? Okay, well, if you do have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and speak up, or go to the Zoom chat and type them in, and I'll try to make sure I'm monitoring that. I'm gonna turn off my reaction. Just realized it's still on. Okay, so we said we would talk through some of the different, yes, sorry. We would talk through some of the different tools in R that are available right now for creating resumes. There's a handful of them. Like I said before, I don't think any of them like are perfect. There's sort of pros and cons depending on what you already know, what you want to do, probably like how customized you want to make your resume or CV. So I try to summarize like my findings, and there's maybe other things out there too, but I try to summarize my findings into this table. And so there's these options listed here. There's kind of options between using R Markdown or Quarto. And so if you're not familiar with Quarto, that's kind of like the next generation version of R Markdown. And Quarto's awesome. It's been around long enough now that it's fairly stable, and they're still adding a lot of really cool new features to it. So it's basically like R Markdown, but better. And nice because it's supposed to be more language agnostic. R Markdown is really designed for R, but Quarto is, you can, write Python code and stuff in it and do a lot of other things. So yeah, the breakdown is kind of like some tools that are written for Quarto and then some that are in R Markdown. And then the other major breakdown is whether or not it uses LaTeX for the formatting. And so if you're not familiar with LaTeX, it is a tool that has been used. It's been around actually kind of for a long time, I think, but it's a tool that's used to format technical documentation. But it can be very finicky and very difficult to use. And it takes, like, I think, a lot of trial and error. I haven't actually used LaTeX myself a lot yet, but it's because I've kind of avoided it because I've heard it's so difficult to use. So yeah, some of these options on here use LaTeX. So it's basically like a template in Quarto or R Markdown that then uses like LaTeX formatting to get your final resume or CV to look certain ways. So yeah, and then so for some of these other options, then they just use a Quarto or R Markdown as the template, and then you add some CSS on top of it to improve the formatting. And I think CSS is a little bit more easy to grasp, and it's already included with the R package that we're going to be using. So yeah, after this, feel free to explore some of these other options. This Vitae R package, I think, is one that's is nice because it's pretty stable and it's been used by a lot of people. The only reason we chose not to do it here is mostly because it uses LaTeX, but it's got a bunch of different templates and it's something that I think a lot of people have used. So that's probably a good one to explore. But we have chosen to do this bottom approach here using the data-driven CVR package. So it uses CSS, but no LaTeX. And like I said before, the only difficulty with it is that it is an unmaintained R package. So that means, like, if you try to just install it from its GitHub repo as is, it is not going to help you because it won't work right out the box. And I think my next slide, I have a few. Okay, this is just a slide that kind of summarizes some of the things I talked about. What Quarto is, LaTeX, difficult to use. We were just talking to somebody who develops Quarto, actually, and they brought up this new tool called Typest, which apparently does a lot of what LaTeX does, but is supposed to be easier to use. I haven't used it yet myself, so I can't speak for it. Just good to know that it's out there, especially if you do stuff like this often. Okay. So yeah, as I said, so we're going to use this data-driven CV, our package, for this workshop in particular. Like I said, it has its own pros and cons. And so in order to try to address the fact that this is an unmaintained R package that can't really be installed easily, I created a version of it of our own. So if you're familiar with GitHub, basically what I did is I forked the original repository with all the code in it, and then I fiddled with it to try to get it working. And so this is the version of what y'all should have installed or will be installing right now. But again, no guarantees this works for everybody on everyone's machine in their own particular flavors of things. If in the future, as you're using this R package, if things aren't working, feel free to reach out to us because we would like to try to keep this working if possible. So yeah, let us know if at some point something weird happens with this R package and it stops working. Another nice thing about the original version of this R package is that it was designed to only be used potentially one time. You run a function in it once and it should hopefully set up all the files that you need. And then at that point, you don't actually really need the R package anymore. So that was another nice part of this. I'm not really even sure why the person made it an R package, but it is what it is. But yeah, the screenshot right here is actually from the documentation for the R package that, they specifically wanted to create the R package. So once you use it once, it would become unnecessary to use. And then as another alternative, so if you really can't get this data-driven CV R package to work, which it may happen to some people here, we have an alternative route, hopefully, which is that we created a repository that just holds the files, the initial files that are created. And so yeah, if anybody here, we can't help you get our version of data-driven CV installed, you could also just basically copy this repository and then hopefully be able to create your CV from there. And so there's some instructions here about how to do that. May not need it for anybody, but it's there just in case. Okay. So with all of that preamble out of the way, we can actually start doing some stuff. That didn't even take half an hour, so I feel pretty good about it. Okay, so I want to go ahead and have everybody check your installations of data-driven CV. So hopefully you had a chance before this to try to install data-driven CV and all the other pieces that are needed to do that. Or you have been doing that as I've been talking for the last like 15 minutes. But the way that you want to check your installation to see if it's working, at least initially, is to open up RStudio. Very slowly. Where's this project? Oh. Okay, so let me make text a little bit bigger. So once you open up RStudio, if you go to the console and just try to read in that data-driven CV, hopefully it works. So I want everyone now to take a moment to open up RStudio and try to read in this R package. If you are able to successfully run it, like I have done here, can you give me a green check? If you have problems or something doesn't work, can you give me like a red X?
Ryan's asking why in console versus Markdown. I think because, as you'll see in a moment, Ryan, we're just gonna this package is a little bit odd in that it's gonna create R Markdown and R script documents for you. So it's gonna create all the files you need.
Yeah, and it should be hopefully easy. It'll just be like, you know, reading in this library and then running one function from it. And then it'll generate these files. And you may never need to run that function again. That's a good question. Okay, I see mostly green checks. Where's everyone else at? Has anyone not been able to get this to work or getting any errors? Oops, see some more green checks. Woo-hoo. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna say that's hopefully everyone's there. I think I saw almost everyone had green checks. So great, wow. I thought that part might take like a long time to get this R package working on everyone's machine. So that's great. Glad it wasn't super difficult for anyone. But if you do run into problems, which you may when we run this function, feel free to let me know and I'll make sure to stop so people have a moment. Okay. So at this point, as y'all should keep RStudio up and we'll be doing things in it, I'm going to be kind of switching back and forth between my slides and RStudio, just so you're sort of prepared for that. Make this really easy. Okay, cool. So everyone has it installed. Awesome. And so like we said, we should just be able to run this one function from data-driven CV to create all these initial files that we need. And so it'll create an R Markdown and it'll create a couple other files. And we're going to walk through each of those files and like what they're doing and why. So yeah, this function is called use underscore data-driven underscore CV. And we're just going to read a couple arguments into it to start with. So yeah, that's the function that creates these 4 files. And so we're going to get the data to sort of populate our resume from a Google sheet that I've already created. I'll show you all that in a second. And then there's a bunch of other arguments that are in use data-driven CV, and we'll talk about those in a second too. Let me show you before we run that. So yeah, so the way that data-driven CV is kind of set up is that basically you have a handful of spreadsheets or files where you have all of your information in them. And then when you create the CV, it'll just feed all of that information into your CV. So it should be pretty easy, like if you start a new position or like learn a new skill, you should be able to add it to this spreadsheet pretty easily, rerun this pipeline, and then have a new version of your CV that's got the updated information in it. So I started off with creating a sort of blank-ish version of a Google Sheet that has sort of all of the right formatting in it. And this is just to get this all running for everybody. Then you all can go and create a copy of this of your own, and then start adding your data to it. But we'll go ahead and make sure that everybody's like pipeline's working with just this blank document to start with. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a link to this Google Sheet in the chat first. But then what we're all going to want to do is actually run this use data-driven CV function. So I'm going to go back over to R, and I'm going to actually look at the documentation for that function first. So it's always a good recommended thing to do, especially when you're using new functions, is that you can find a lot of useful information in the function's documentation. So I just said question mark and then the name of the function. So you can see there's a bunch of different arguments here. We're just going to start off using the first two. So basically you put in your name and then you put in the location of your data. And so to start with, we'll use that blank Google Sheet that I created and sent the link to. There's some other stuff here that we'll talk about a little bit later. Yeah, probably worth poking around here a little bit. But then, yeah, the code we want to run, which I'll also post this into the Zoom chat when I have typed it all out. But yeah, so you want to use this function, use data-driven CV. First argument will be full name. So go ahead and put your name in quotes. And then the second thing will be data underscore location. And so that's going to be the Google Sheet, which I think is yeah, like that. And then hit enter. Oh, shoot. I totally skipped a step that I forgot about. Hold on. If you haven't run that yet, don't run it yet. I meant to create an R project first. Oh, I see a comment. Options to copy have been disabled. Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll have to go in and change that then.
You're talking about the spreadsheet.
Yeah, I just updated the permissions so anyone can edit, which I think is what you need to have copy access.
Got it. I didn't realize that. Okay,
Oh,
so people
yes.
cannot edit that file. I think I just set it so that anybody can view it.
Yeah, so I changed it to edit. Is that okay? Or do we want to keep it?
I think it's fine with now.
Yeah, we might switch it back after the workshop so it doesn't.
Honor
get changed.
system. Don't mess up Kristina's resume.
Yeah. Don't change this. Well, this one
Guys.
doesn't have my information in it on purpose. But yeah, so when you make a copy of this, which we will do that process later on together, when you make a copy of this, you don't need to set it to like anybody can edit. You can just set it to anybody can view. But it doesn't need to be set on anyone can view in order for like your RStudio to have access to it. Okay, but I totally skipped a step. I totally forgot about this in my notes. Okay, so what we want to do first is create a new R project, and then we want to run this function. So it puts all the files into one folder. I'm so sorry. I like totally overlooked this when I was creating the slides. So if you haven't done this before, in RStudio, go up to project and hit new project. And wait until it makes up its mind. And then you want to go ahead and hit new directory when that shows up for you. And the new project again, because we just need a plain old vanilla R project. And then you're going to want to call this folder. So this will be the folder that'll contain all your files. And I'm just going to call it Mind Workshop CV. Probably makes more sense for you to call it like, I don't know, your last name CV or resume or something like that. And then you're going to want to choose where you're going to put it. And so I'm just going to put this on my desktop, but you should at some point put this folder somewhere like reasonable in your file structure. But yeah, I'm just going to put this on my desktop. And then click create project. Ooh, so sorry, I totally forgot about that. And if you haven't used R projects before, they're super awesome, a super helpful thing for keeping like all of your projects sort of separate and self-contained as like little units. And our studio is really designed to like work with our projects. So if you haven't used them before, they're an awesome thing to start using. You want to kind of have one per project that you're working on. What that means kind of depends on the project, but yeah, so what this is going to do here when we create this new R project is it's going to create a folder on your computer, wherever you just said to put it, that is called whatever you named the R project. So I now on my computer, on my desktop, have, oh wow, that's really big, sorry. I have a new folder that it just created called workshop_CV. And then when we run this function, it'll create all these files and put them into this folder. Okay, so I'm going to stop for a minute. I might have gone through that R project step pretty quickly. So if you have managed to create an R project on your computer for your CV or resume, can you give me a green check? If you're having problems or need me to repeat something, feel free to let me know.
Yeah, I just missed where you access the new project really quick.
Yeah, of course. So up here in the upper right-hand corner, if you click on, it'll say either no project or the project name. This is the menu for dealing with projects. So if you want to click new project.
Does it matter that I'm on the cloud, Posit Cloud?
Oh, I have no idea.
I think you can create a project on Posit Cloud. I think.
Okay, I just don't
think
see
so.
that cube with the workshop CV thing in there.
Oh, then you know what? It might be that you're in a project that you might be right. You might, if you're on Posit Cloud, it might be that that instance is a project.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I haven't used cloud very much. Is that a UA instance of Posit Cloud that you're using?
No.
Or just one of the, I think you can have free access to it too. Well, if you end up having problems with like figuring out where files are and stuff, let me know. Because we can figure that out. Okay, it looks like I think everyone else has an R project open. And so now we again want to do what we had just done before outside of the R project, which is read in this data-driven CV library. And then run this function. And I said I'd post this into the chat and I haven't yet. I will. I'm going to put my name in here, but you should put your name in. And then we want to do the data location, which will be to the, I probably still have it copied, to the Google Sheet. I'm going to hit enter and I'll go ahead and paste this into the chat. Okay. And so if this works for everyone, it should, you should, in this pane right here that shows your files that are within this new project folder, you should have 4 new files that are created. Well, there'll be 5 total. Okay, I don't know, can I clear people's reactions? Is that a thing?
Quick question. Will you just scroll down a little bit in the console?
Oh, yes.
Got it. Thank you.
I can't clear reactions. Oops, didn't mean to open that. Okay, so when everyone's gotten to this point where you have these 4 new files that are created, and you haven't had any errors with running use data-driven CV, can you give me a green check? If you have problems, let me know. And we will solve them. Okay, I think that was almost everyone, if not everyone. Okay. So, wow, that is amazing. I really thought like both installing this R package and then running this function from it would be like a bunch of installation errors. So like this is Great.
Oh, we do have one.
Oh, we do have one error. Okay, there we go. Now I feel like more.
And
It's too easy.
this is the error on Posit Cloud. So when it tried to open up that cv.rmd, it said it didn't exist. Is that the case, that it doesn't exist? Like, can you see it in your file pane? Because if you can see it in your file pane, Ryan, then you can just open it up manually and all's good. But if it's not there, then that's a problem.
Yeah, I don't think I see it in the file pane. I was successful.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, I installed the DevTools package and used the DevTools install thing in a code chunk in the R Markdown, and it looks like it installed everything all right. But I'm not seeing the error is still relevant.
I mean, it might have,
Mm.
it might just be that it created like the cv.rmd just somewhere else that you like, not in the location you're in the file pane, and also not at that path. But where it would be, I don't really know.
Okay.
Oh, interesting. No, it's saying that it's the error is saying that the template that is inside of the R package does not exist. So it's not finding the template. That's interesting.
Because if it installed the R package somewhere odd. This is me kind of assuming this path that you have, like there's something wrong with it. Like these, I'm assuming the file exists, it's just
well,
not
that's the path.
but...
That's the path to the package library, right? That's like where packages are installed on Posit Cloud, and it's looking for it inside of there.
That makes me think maybe the installation did not work. But you didn't get any error messages when you did DevTools install GitHub?
Yeah, no. But
is there any chance it installed it relative to the Markdown? That would be weird, but
what do you mean?
Well, sometimes
like
our
if the
Markdown
R
has
Markdown
weird pathing because it knows it's in our Markdown. But I don't
is
think
your R
have
Markdown that you're working in? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Is it in like a folder? Is your R Markdown that you're working in a folder or something? Like, or is it just at the like root level?
It's just in the project.
Okay.
It's okay though. You can carry on.
Okay, well, we can come back.
Well, there's an alternative way to do this. I'll paste it into the chat once I find it. So.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I did not run this on cloud, and I'm not very familiar with the nuances of how it works. Okay. Well, so we'll move on for now, but if you want to keep following along, like the rest of this stuff is useful. So I'm gonna go back to my slides real quick. Okay, so everybody, well, except Ryan, sorry, has these 4 initial files. So we're gonna go through what these different 4 files, like what their purpose is, because each of them has a purpose, that these ones that were created. And so 2 of the files, RStudio probably actually automatically opened for you, and then 2 of them are there, but they're not open. So that's kind of how I split these up. Yeah, we'll walk through these, and this is just like a description if you want to refer back to them. So, oh geez, out of the way. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about, this is one of the ones that was opened up automatically, is the cv.rmd. So RMD files that end with .rmd, those are R Markdown files. And so this file is sort of the core one for laying out the format of your CV. And so it's got like a lot of different sections in here. It reads in the data from the data location, and then it kind of puts everything, like all the pieces into place. And we'll see those pieces when we look. So we haven't yet generated the CV or resume. I'll kind of interchangeably go back and forth between calling them CVs and resumes because it depends on what you're creating. Doesn't matter for our purposes. But yeah, so this R Markdown kind of lays out the different pieces of the CV and sort of how it's structured. So yeah, and this uses a bunch of functions, like for example, the create CV object function, this build network logo. Actually, that's in the main R package. But these like print contact info. So those are all functions that the package creator created himself, and then he put them into this other, one of the other 4 files. This was not open automatically because this is something you probably wouldn't go in and change or do anything with, but this has all the functions that are used to basically like take the stuff from the CV R Markdown and then do a lot of the sort of cleaning up. It like pulls the data down from the Google Sheet, and then it does some stuff to it. It, you know, cleans up and sort of splits up that information before then it feeds it into the CV.rmd through all of these different functions, and then puts it into the file. So yeah, there's like kind of a lot of stuff in here, but it just basically lays out the different sections of the CV. And then it also has a little bit of the content, and so you might go in here and change parts of this R Markdown. Like for example, it's got like the name. I think this is where you, no, this is not where you specify your name. I think there's somewhere you can change the name. And then, yeah, it's got some different things in here. Like I think this is where you change the icons of the different sections and things like that. And so we'll talk about some of that stuff later. But this is one of the places you'd go to say change how your how the CV looks. The other of these 4 files that was created, and this is one you'll use fairly frequently probably, is this render cv.r. So this is an R script. cv.rmd is an R Markdown file, so it combines text and code. This is just an R script, and it has in it just 3 functions that it runs. And so what this does is it takes the R Markdown and it turns it into an HTML file, and then it also turns it into a PDF. So you'll run this in order to actually get the files that you would use to like share with people. And then we talked about the CV printing functions. Again, you probably wouldn't touch this, I don't think. And then the last file is a CSS file. And so this is another place where a lot of the like the formatting and how the appearance of your CV would be is set. And so I don't have a ton of experience with CSS myself, and so some of this looks like a little sort of mysterious, but I think it's all straightforward enough that if like you want to change something, you can go in here and figure it out. And so it's a lot of stuff like color and font and things like that, and like margins and some of the sort of like how things are laid out. So this is the file you'd go to change some of those things. Okay. So we've successfully all done this first step of creating these files. So now the second thing we want to do is we want to actually create our actual CV files. So the PDF and the HTML version of these. So the way we do that, like I said, is to go to this render cv.r script. That should have actually been the one that popped up open when you ran this function. And you're going to want to go ahead and just run this entire script. And it'll take a minute. There may be errors for people here. This is another place where it might be a little bit error prone. Yeah, so go ahead and run this. Hopefully it'll generate those 2 files. Okay, let's see, Eric is helping Ryan, a whole bunch of things. Okay, so if that was successful, you should see the cv.pdf file pop up. So if that happened, it looks good. Can you give me a green check? And you can look at the contents of that, of course. If you click on it, should pop up. You can see right now it's kind of like the bare bones version of a CV or a resume. Not much information here, but it's got all the sections and stuff in the layout. So if that worked for you, you can see this. Give me a green check if you had errors or problems. Let me know. And it may take a minute to run, like it's knitting the R Markdown and stuff.
Okay, I think Ryan got everything sorted out. On public cloud.
Yay.
Mhm.
Okay. Oh, we do have an error. Leaf. Sorry if that's not how you say your name. Windows Defender blocked something. I don't even know what that is, what Windows Defender is. I assume it's some sort of like firewall.
Yeah, it's like an anti-malware thing.
Oh gosh, it blocked some features of our studio. Oh goodness. Okay. So you weren't able to get to this point. It did something to that kept the PDF and HTML file from being created, I assume.
I'm still trying to see if I can break through that firewall.
Okay, I have not experienced this before.
No, I guess the CV.pdf has been created.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Does it, when you open it up and look at it, does it look like similar to the one that I have?
Yes, indeed it does.
Oh, okay. So it didn't actually like stop the thing from working, but maybe it did give you some information.
Yeah, I had to click allow and stuff. I guess that's all I needed to do.
Oh, cool. Well, that was that was easy. Good to know that that can be a problem. Because I haven't run into that yet before. Great. I think I saw a comment from
We
David.
have an error in the chat from David. David, do you have Chrome installed?
Yeah, I do have Chrome. I use this. There's a
Interesting.
function find Chrome, and it found it.
But it's, according to PageDown, it's not executable. I don't know what that means. So the way this works, in case anybody's interested, PageDown is a package, like an add-on for R Markdown that generates paged HTML. So it's HTML like you'd see in a web browser, but it's like pages, so it looks like a PDF kind of. And this Chrome print thing basically opens up a Chrome window, like an invisible Chrome window, and prints it to a PDF for you. And so I think, David, your error is something to do with not being able to open up that like headless browser.
Yeah, no, so I just realized I
not
don't have
sure.
Chrome installed. And even though that function told
Oh,
me
okay.
that I did, which is interesting in its own right. But I do have
Interesting.
Edge. It says it should use Edge instead. But I can figure this out.
Okay.
It seems like
Awesome.
one of these
Yeah,
rabbit holes.
I think
serious.
we forgot to mention that it's probably best if everybody has Chrome installed for this to work, but
That didn't even occur to me. Yeah, sorry, because I have it on my computer.
yeah, it did not occur to me either.
Okay. That is so odd that it said that you have Chrome, but then you don't have it too. Like that seems like a problem with that function, that find Chrome function.
Yeah.
Okay, well, once you install it, hopefully it does generate the PDF. We shall see. How was this for everyone else? Oh, spinning.
Ryan's got a spinning wheel of death.
Oh no.
Oh
Yeah, because I don't know from within cloud if it can.
Yeah,
like,
I'm trying it right now, and it did, tell me like that there's a pop-up and I have to allow pop-ups. But it worked for me once I allowed pop-ups. Okay, cool. Worked for Ryan too. Awesome. Yeah.
Okay, some weird finicky little things going on there. And I see Melanie, you said you used Opera and it was fine. So is Opera related to Google Chrome? Maybe just looks for alternative similar browsers. I don't know. Okay. Anything else that
Opera's really old?
Oh, it's really old. Oh, it's an old operating or an old browser?
I think so.
It's based
It's like
on
on
Chromium.
mobile. Oh, is it? Okay, cool.
Interesting. I haven't used that before. Nice. Awesome. Okay. Were there any other problems, or did everybody get to this PDF? It's kind of like the final output that we want. Yeah, all good.
Quick question.
Yeah.
I got it to pop up in the new window, but I'm not sure what you're working in. It looks like the render CV R script.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean. Sorry. You can't
I'm not
find
sure
this
What's
R script?
that's
Yeah.
that should be one of the other things that
yeah,
was
there it is.
in
Thanks.
that folder. Yeah, that from the template. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, glad you're able to find it. Yeah. And this, like this, again, this is one of the reasons why it's really nice to use the R projects. And I don't know how it works in the cloud, but yeah, it should hopefully keep all your files like nice and tidy together, and it makes it really
This
easy
is
to find the files.
Yeah, Ryan, that script is not going to work for you right off the bat because these files are now in a folder. So where it says like cv.rmd, you have to put the actual path to it, or you have to move all those files that are in that like folder with a really long name to just like the root level of the project, and then it'll work. They're supposed to be just at the root level of the project.
Yeah,
And when I had you install it with that, use this thing, it put them in a folder. So
makes sense. I'll reconcile it later. Thank you.
cool.
Awesome. Lots of good troubleshooting. This is still has not been as painful as I expected it to be for everyone. So it's definitely a big win. Okay, great. So we got to this point where everybody now has a sort of unfilled out version of a CV as a PDF file. Okay. Oh, I just had some comments about some of the like R packages that are used to do all these steps. Eric mentioned earlier about PageDown, which if you kind of want to go off and like create your own template at some point, like PageDown is what is used to turn R Markdown into this like paginated HTML to create a PDF that's multi-page, and also has some like formatting with CSS. I have not used this myself and haven't dug into it, so I don't really know the extent of it, but this is what was used, for example, like what we were talking about with the Chrome stuff. PageDown is what is used to create this PDF that has multiple pages, and probably other things I don't know about. The Google Sheets for, is that actually what that's called? I think so. So there's an R package that is used to read in the Google Sheet. So that's just like a nice thing to know about if you're like working with Google Sheets for another project. And then yeah, we have R Markdown. Okay. So now that we've successfully gotten all the way through those hurdles, I was going to say maybe we should take a short break so people can get a little break from their looking at their computer. So I think I have a schedule for a 10-minute break. So if we want to all meet back here at 12:05, we will pick up where we left off, and we will take that blank CV and then start putting your details into it and start learning how to customize the formatting. So yeah, definitely highly recommend everybody actually like take a break from looking at your computer for the next almost 10 minutes. But I'll see y'all soon. And if you have questions in the meantime, yeah, feel free to put them in the chat. Okay. Hope everybody's about ready to get back into it. If you're here, do you want to like throw up a reaction emoji just so I know people are out there? Besides Eric, who I see. No one's out there. There we go. We got someone. Yay. It's always hard to tell teaching online. Also, I think I did a weird thing where when I stopped my video, it like made me not be able to see anyone else's video. I don't know if I was just like looking at it wrong, but it was kind of odd. Okay, well, we are going to pick back up with now adding details, your personal details to your CV, and then also we'll talk about at least how to start thinking about customizing the format and the colors and things like that. Okay. So yeah, so the first thing we want to do is customize the information, because right now, the CV that you have maybe just has your name on it and then has a bunch of blank stuff. And that's because I made most of the cells in the Google Sheet like blank. So the first thing we want to do is we want you to be able to, update that information with your own files, with your own spreadsheets. And so there's two ways to do that. So one is to take this Google Sheet, make a copy of it, and then put it like on your own account, your own Google Drive. And so if you're able to do that, if you have a Gmail account, so if you don't have a Gmail account, we have an alternative way to do this, and I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, you should be able to copy this file. Jeez, I don't even know how you'd go about doing that from here. I don't want to move it. I don't think I've created a copy from inside a file before in Google.
Are you trying to create a copy of this spreadsheet?
Just hit file.
In the file menu.
Oops. Ah, I didn't mean to click that. Sorry. Hold on a second. Ah, I see. Okay, make a copy. And then you can specify where to make the copy to. Cool. Sorry, that was like, yeah, weird blank spot in my like knowledge. So yeah, you can decide where you want to put that. And I guess I should also copy it somewhere.
Should we do this right now?
Yes, sorry, yeah. So if you are able, if you have a Gmail account, and you're logged in and things like that, yeah, you should be able to go, back up and do it again from this. I'll put the link just in case people lost it. You can go to this blank version of this sheet and go ahead and make a copy under file. And you want to rename it. So I probably want to call it Riemer CV data. I'm going to copy it where I currently am located, but you can change the folder that it goes to. So suggestions, I guess I'll put it in my drive instead. And make a copy. Okay. And so now I've made a copy of this Google Sheet of my own, so I'll be able to go ahead and modify it, and then I'll change the link to this. So people want to go ahead and do that, and I'll talk briefly about the other option. So the other option, if you don't want to use Google Drive or you don't have access to a Gmail account, you can also basically create these same files, but locally. And there's actually a function in Data-Driven CV that does this, so I'll show y'all how to do that. So yeah, the function is called use CSV data storage. So this is a data-driven CV function. If you just run it like this, there are some arguments to it, but if you just run it like this as is, that should generate a new folder called data in your R project. And then within data, there'll be 4 CSV files that basically mirror what's on the Google Sheet. So that's another option if you want to have local files, like local CSV files, instead of using Google Sheets for your information. So it's kind of personal preference. So yeah, if anybody wants to take a moment to do that now, one of these two approaches, either copy the Google Sheet and put it in your local Google Drive, or you can create these local files. So once everybody has done that, if you want to give me a green check reaction so that I know we're ready to move on to actually customizing.
I actually have a quick question about this. So with the new URL, maybe it's just as simple as, do we just go into our console, replace that URL, and rerun that use data-driven CV line of code, and then rerun, I think it was the render file afterwards, you said?
So you could do that. I think there's a couple ways to do this. So you could do that. I think if you do that, it will complain that you have already created some of these files, so you'd probably have to delete them. And
Yeah.
then run that I can't remember, the use data-driven CV function. The other alternative is that you can go into the R Markdown and
Oh,
change it here too. So like there's a couple ways to do this. And there maybe are other ways too, by the way. I didn't create this package, so I don't have like super, perfect knowledge of it. But yeah, that's something people want to do. But it's probably a little bit more informative to change something in the Google Sheet and then change the link and then see what it looks like.
okay. So use the rundown, okay, to make our changes to the URL and then rerun the render. Okay.
Yeah, and we'll do that all. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to make their own data file. But once you've made your own data file, you can put information in here. So I'll add some I'm gonna just put in like a tiny bit of information of my own just to know that I actually made some changes. So if you make some changes to your Google Sheet or to those local files, if that's the way you're doing this, and then and I haven't actually done this. Need to. Oh yeah, and make sure, so when you copied the Google Sheet, it probably did a thing where it changed the permissions on you. So I'm gonna go ahead and change the sharing to anyone with a link and viewer. That way no one else can edit it. So I'm gonna take the link to my Google Sheet and I'm going to change it here in the cv.rmd and save it. So now I think if I go back and run the functions in this render CV, oh no, it didn't work. What did I do wrong? I haven't actually done it this way. I've always been going back and rerunning the original function, the use data-driven CV. Oh, but it looks like it doesn't like something about my URL maybe? I haven't gotten this error yet. What are you angry about? Save it. Okay, so sorry, just to talk a little bit about what I'm looking at here. So I got an error. It didn't work. And the thing that it is complaining about, you can see here, it says quitting from lines 15 to 29 of the cv.rmd. So it means something in this first, I think it's the first code chunk. Yeah, something in this first code chunk is not good. And so the only thing I changed was that URL to my personal copy of the Google Sheet. And so now I'm trying to figure out what it doesn't like. I mean, it looks like it's something about reading it in. Because curl is what is used. It's the like command line program that's used to pull the data down from online. Maybe I did it too quickly and it wasn't. I'll try this again.
You scroll up.
Where do you want me to scroll up?
R Markdown output. Because I just changed it and got an error about permissions.
Oh, okay. Actually, you wanted me to scroll up in the console? Okay, it worked for me.
Okay. Okay.
You had a different error.
Yeah, I got a different error about permissions, which I'm pretty sure is because OAuth doesn't have this is somehow, yeah, it has restricted access when you copy it.
I think I'm experiencing the same issue probably.
Yeah, so you need to change so you have two options. You could we could work through giving, how is this connecting? Is it Google Sheets? Giving Google Sheets the permissions to access a private CSV or a private Google Sheet, or you can change it to public access by changing the permissions of the Google Sheet, which is what Kristina is showing.
Yeah, to anyone with the link.
Can
And the other,
edit, I believe.
I'm sure you can do
Or
it the other way
maybe
too.
just
Like,
view.
yeah,
Let's try
just
view.
so just viewer. So just setting it to like anyone with a link can view this should be safe from other people modifying it, and it should be able to be read in without having to worry about authentication. And I imagine there's a way you can get around that. Like if you really want this to be private, first the sheet to be totally private, I think you probably can figure out how to use Google Sheets to like do the authentication step. I think the person who made the data-driven CVR package just probably didn't want people to have to like deal with that. And it would probably make things more complicated. But yeah, so I got this error. It must have just been a temporary thing where like, I don't know, it didn't connect to the internet or something properly. So when I reran this again, it worked for me. And so now if I look at my PDF again, you can see that there were some of the data changed based on just that one line I added about educational experience. Okay, how is this going for everyone else? Have other folks gotten to the point where you have a CV where you've like changed some of the information and it's shown up in the resulting PDF? Or do you have other errors?
My
I'm not
changes
really
aren't
getting
showing
an
up.
error. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Please go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just saying my changes haven't shown up yet.
They haven't shown up. Okay. But when you
I'm
did you get
experiencing the same thing.
interesting. But so both y'all ran all of this R script, the render CV R script?
Yes, it
I've
ran
tried it
in
a few
pre-
times.
And you did change the link
The
here to the URL that's in
No, that's what I
cv.rmd?
need to do.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I changed the link in the CVRMD,
Mhm.
went back to render, and I've tried to run it a few times, and then I'll click on the PDF to see the results, and because I just put test in like a few fields, and I'm still not seeing anything, but I'm not also generating an error.
Interesting. I think it's possible that you change something that's not going to show up. Maybe would be maybe one of my first guesses. Where did you put test? Like what of the
I put it in that
cells?
first education line under title, location, and description.
Oh, okay. Then that should be fine, right? Like I should be able to put like test here and test here. And then rerun this myself. And yeah, this does take a minute. Like it's a little bit onerous. You probably want to like spend some time updating your spreadsheet, like, and then rerunning this to see what it looks like. So let's see if that works for me when I do that. So I do think for the most part, you should be able to put kind of anything you want, like text-wise in each of those cells. So I don't know why yours isn't working. Yeah, it shows up as test. But you didn't get any errors.
I'll play around. Yeah, I didn't get any errors, but maybe I'll just reapply the URL and make sure that my sheet doesn't have any blocks either.
Yeah, and it would probably error if it's not able to access the sheet, I think. Also, I mean, one thing maybe to check is that oops, sorry, is to look and see what time the cv.pdf changed last. Because if it did actually change, like this file should say like, you know, a minute ago or whatever. If you look at the like time that it was created. Yeah, it's not super
Yeah, I've
helpful when
been
you don't get
looking
an
at
error.
Yeah.
Okay, you have, okay. And you definitely changed. Are you using an R project, Melanie?
I am. Yeah.
Okay, I was just making sure it wasn't like maybe creating files in multiple places or something weird.
Yeah. I'll keep at it. I'll update you if I make a breakthrough.
Okay, cool. That would be great to know. And so Leaf, did that work for you now once you put in the URL?
No, I think I'm not putting it in effectively. Could you show where? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, in this cv.rmd file, which you can open over here if you want, in this first code chunk right here, this last piece is where it creates kind of like the initial object. So if you change the URL here in data location to the, make sure you get the URL for your own personal Google Sheet and paste that there.
Thank you. I did it in the wrong place. Okay.
Got it. Is there a URL somewhere else in here? Hopefully not.
I changed it in the render instead of the.
Oh,
RMD.
okay. Yeah, and it is, I mean, I have to say, I don't think this like workflow that they set up here is like the most, you know, clear and obvious thing. It does take a little bit of like finicky stuff. And I just want to mention again, like, yeah, so you can change the URL here in the cv.rmd. You also, like, if it's really not working or you want to try something else, you can run that original function again that use data-driven CV and put in your name like you did before. And then put in the data location, but change it to that new URL to your Google Sheet, and rerun that. And it should regenerate all of those initial files again. So just in case something weird happened, it'll just like recreate them. I do think when you do that, it might yell at you because it'll be like, oh, those files already exist. So you'll want to delete those files from this folder and then run it. But like we talked about way early on in the beginning, if you remember, this R package, data-driven CV, was like designed with the idea that you could maybe just run this function once and then never have to use like the actual like R package components again. So you hopefully don't need to do that. It's definitely possible. Okay. How are folks doing? Do most of us have a PDF that's slightly updated with our information now? And again, I mean, this is something I think that will take some time, right? Like to just fill out all these fields. And I guess I didn't really talk about these fields too much. But you can kind of compare side by side the PDF and then the Google Sheet. But yeah, so there's like all of these different possible sections you can use. Some of them are kind of specific to the person who made this R package, I think. But and you can copy these and add more of each of the different types. There are these different description fields. And so that's just in the first tab. In the second tab, they have, and again, this is like a little specific to somebody who does like data science or software engineering, but they have this section for your skills. And so that's what shows up over here. And so again, like for your particular needs, this may not be helpful or it may be helpful, or you could probably repurpose it to something else. This third tab here has, oh, he had this thing, and I'm not sure I would really want this in my own resume. I'm not really sure, but these little asides. So, oh, they got all crunched up because I don't have anything in here, but you can basically add like a little sentence or paragraph about like your experiences related to like industry, and it'll show up over here. This looks nicer and kind of like his version of it, which we can actually look at that. I think he's got a screenshot. Yeah. It's not really a screenshot, just the. Okay, we can kind of see here. I don't know if I can zoom in. But you can see like the person who created this, their version of their CV. You can't see it on here. Nope. Okay. That's not very helpful. yeah, basically you have these like little paragraphs on the side that you can add if you want. So that's what this oops. This tab is about, and then the last tab is for changing contact information. And so that shows up on the right-hand side right up here. And so an interesting thing you can change here, not only can you change like, you know, put in your email, your Twitter handle, et cetera, you can also change the icons that are showing up here if you want to use different icons. And so all of these icons came from something called Font Awesome, which is like a website, maybe a company, not really sure. But they have this website, they have a bunch of icons. Some of them are free, some of them you have to pay for. But yeah, so let's start for free. If you're interested, oh, wait, I think you can skip this. Do this when you try to the other day. I mean, you should not be able to, or you should not need to have to pay. Let's try this. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so this is the Font Awesome icons. I probably should have put a link to this in the slides. I'll try to remember to do that. Yeah, if you want to change either the icons that are over in the contact, or I think these icons too, at the beginning of each section, if you want to change the sections to something else. I mean, you can type in, I don't remember what I typed in the other day, like sparkles. And so, oh, these are all paid ones. Oh, here's a free one. So you can like, you know, change these icons by, for example, typing in one sparkles. I did this the other day. Here under the icon column. And so if I rerun, no, see, so yeah, I think it does this periodically. I think it's just like a timing out issue probably. So if you get an error when you try to run this, just try to run it again. I mean, I know it's not like ideal, but. Okay. So now if I open up my CV .pdf, I can see now there's like a wand of sparkles here instead of a little envelope. So that's one way that you can like modify the CV for your purposes. Most of the stuff that's in here is like the text content. But there are a few things in here that are like, you know, other sort of visual things, including changing these icons. Okay, does anyone have any questions or concerns right now? I think I had like a, I think I said something about like taking time to have everybody like update a few things, but I think I'm gonna go ahead in the interest of time. We'll kind of like skip spending 5 or 10 minutes doing that. But has everyone successfully been able to change something in their PDF? See a comment. Oh, cool. I didn't know that. Awesome. Yeah, David shared a little factoid that I didn't know about, is that apparently putting those little paragraphs that are called asides on the sides of the resume is based on Tufte, who's like a pretty well-known person for like data visualization, which is then based on Richard Feynman, who's a physicist. Cool. Okay, so maybe it's like a good thing to do. I don't know. Okay, cool. So it seems like everybody's been at least somewhat successful with that. If you have problems, we can help you solve them. But we'll kind of move on to the last big part of this workshop, which is talking about like how to actually customize some of the other like formatting and appearances of the of your CV. And so yeah, you can change a lot of different things just by poking around: colors, fonts, images, icons, all of these different things. And there's multiple different places in these files you can change things. So it can take a little bit, like as I was trying to like change some of these things myself, it took like a little bit of like poking around to figure out where in these files like things were set. So it can take like a little bit of like tricksy stuff. And it's not always like clear immediately, like where things should be changed. Because I just showed how to change the icon. Closed it. Oh, no, it's right here. I showed how to change these icons, but like I said, if you want to change these icons, I think you actually do that in the, and y'all don't necessarily need to follow along right now. You can like just sort of watch what I'm doing. I think that's in the cv.rmd. Pretty sure. Yeah. So yeah, you see right here how it says education, data icon equals graduation cap. So I think if I change this here, and I may be doing this wrong, so sorry if in advance. Change this to wand sparkles and rerun the render script. I think it'll change those. This is apparently going to take a minute because that's okay. And then like for a lot of the colors and fonts and stuff, that's in this the CSS file, which we talked about briefly earlier. But yeah, like if you want to change like, these colors, for example, you can change them to hex codes. Oh, okay, that rendered. See if it worked. Yep, yeah. So now my like little icon up here by education, instead of it being a graduation hat, is sparkles, a wand of sparkles. And then yeah, we can change like the colors of a lot of the different things. This is the text color. I think one of the things I tried to change was like this gray on the right hand side. I can't remember where that was. Probably some people are better at like reading the CSS. I definitely am not. Oh, sidebar background color. So this was what I changed. So I think I like went and I looked up some random hex color. I actually did red. I know it's really obnoxious. It won't look good, but F00 should work. So I'm just gonna change this to like F00. And it actually like renders it in red so you can see what color it's gonna look like. This will look really bad, just but like it makes it obvious when you made a change. So it's good for examples. And there's, yeah, like all this other stuff about like margins, like how far apart things are. Again, if you want to change like the font, if you want to make certain things like bigger or smaller. I only got a little bit into like messing around with this CSS file, but like if you're really into like customizing stuff, I mean, it's also possible you could maybe just like replace all of this. I don't think that there are other templates from data-driven CV, but there are other example templates for CSS online you could poke around with. So let's see if that worked. Yep. Oh gosh, that's terrible. Look at that. Hurts my eyes. But it worked. That's all that really matters. Yeah, what are other things people would want to change here that you maybe like are not immediately obvious how to do?
I was curious if you had any experience changing that contact information on the side, especially with the icons, because I think for myself, I don't have some of these things, but I would like to switch them out with some other places where my work is being showcased.
Yeah, definitely. So I think if you just go to your Google Sheet and go to that contact info, you can change or delete any of these that you want. So if I wanted to change it, oh, I don't know if this will work. Oh, just an ID. I don't know if this will work. I'm gonna try it. Okay. I'm gonna call this Mastodon. I'll change it to an envelope because I don't want to look up what the like icon for a Mastodon is. And then
Okay, so the icon, all that stuff happens there on this sheet. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
It's easier than I thought.
yeah, which is weird, right? Like, so yeah, some of these things are like a little more difficult and some of them are easier. Should I kind of like look up? I wonder if they have a Mastodon. I don't use Twitter anymore, so I would probably, oh yeah, they actually do have the Mastodon icon. And yeah, you should be able to change, you know, for example, and so once you change it in the sheet, then if you go back and run under CV again, hopefully that will be updated. So it should be that straightforward. And I assume like you can add new rows there, like, you know, if you want to, or yeah, add more rows to that if you like have additional things you want to put in, or delete the existing rows. Yeah. Ooh, great question. Okay, so the image at the top right. Yeah, so for some reason the person who created this thought that it was like really cool to have this network diagram here. They wrote a function just to make this. And basically like takes information that you've put into your CV and then like auto generates some sort of network diagram. If you like that, that's great. But if you want to put something else there, you totally can, or you can just delete it. But the way, I'm gonna have to look at my notes for this. The way that you can change that to whatever image you want is by going to, going to the cv.rmd. And the place where they put that into your CV document is right here. So this line 51. And so all you need to do to replace that with just some sort of static image is to get rid of that chunk and then put in I'm going to delete this whole chunk right here. So it's lines 40 through 52. And you can put in anything you want here. I'm going to actually put in what he had as first default, but yeah, so basically, and I'm going to put in the R logo because he had that as a default. You can use any image either that's online or if you want to use your own image. And actually, I can show people how to do that. I'll put my headshot in. So that's what I did earlier, just as an example. Don't actually do this. Don't put your headshot on your CV, like unless you're in Europe, but in the US, don't do that. So this is not really like maybe a great example, but it will show you how you can change this image. Because that was also like one of the first things I wanted to do. Okay, can I drag and drop? No, can't do that. All right, this is going to take me a minute. There we go. Okay, so basically I just took an image. It happens to be a headshot of mine, and I put it into this folder. And so now I should be able to put that here. Actually, there doesn't need to be any text here. I think I need to have an exclamation point like that. Okay, and now if I rerun the render, we'll see if I did that right. I may not have. Full disclosure. Oh, and I made another change that we didn't look at yet too. So we'll look at both of those since friends.
Can you scroll to that code, the logo code?
Yes, sorry. Yeah, right here. So this is like Markdown formatting that I use right here. This is the way you insert an image into like any R Markdown. So yeah, it's an exclamation point, 2 square brackets, parentheses, and then in the parentheses is where you can put the path to your image, which can either be a URL online or like a local image. So see if I did that correctly. Yes. So I changed that weird little network icon logo thing to a static image. Oh, the other thing I changed was I added an email, my email here, and then I changed, oh, bummer. That Mastodon icon did not work. I think this must be some sort of like error icon. So you probably have to figure out why that happened, but I did change the handle here. So that's how you change the contact part of this.
I'm not terribly familiar with the Markdown file in R, but I'm just curious, like, let's say you put your headshot there, you wanted to comment it out and like try another picture. Are you able to comment out in this file format? I don't know if it, I
Yeah.
think maybe it's just the formatting of what I'm seeing is throwing me off.
Yeah, it's a
and
different
actually
different commenting style.
Okay.
But
Maybe not
the
do that.
shortcut still works. So if you select a line and do, what is it, Command Shift C, it'll comment.
Oh, okay. Okay, there it is. All right.
So
Yeah, so
those-
it's doing the hashtag.
Yeah, so hashtags in Markdown make headers. And that commenting style is how you comment stuff out in HTML. And that's what
Okay.
works here.
And
Thank you very
JSON, I
much.
think too. So it's kind of
Yeah.
funky looking.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, we have some comments in the chat. I see Eric, you shared some CSS customization. So I'll give you that link. This is page not found.
Oh. Cool.
I don't know if
Maybe
it's
it's private. I
private.
probably made it private. I'll make this public because I don't care.
Okay. And then David had a good question. How to add publications. And then is there any way to sort of automatically add that information from other sources? I do not off the top of my head have any answers to that. I mean, so there is like in the Google Sheet, there's this academic articles that I think is intended for putting in things like publication information. I haven't really used that much. And that would be really useful to have something that will automatically like go to your Google Scholar or whatever and pull like all of the data or metadata about all your articles and automatically put it in here. I don't know about that. Hopefully somebody's built a tool that will enable that, but I'm not familiar with one. So that could be really onerous.
Definitely can do that. I don't know how well you can do that with this, how easy it is to do that with this package, but I can share another example of, so I have not in an R Markdown, but should like kind of work with R Markdown. I have an example of doing this with my publications that are in Zotero and using the Zotero API. So I can share a link for that. That probably will take some fiddling to make it look nice in this resume. Maybe not. Maybe it'd be really easy.
So it's a Zotero.
Yeah,
plugin?
I was mostly curious.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was mostly curious, like, it seems like a natural thing now that, you know, so many different sources have our stuff online, whether it's Orchid or LinkedIn or etc., that like ideally you only have to manage all this stuff in one place. And I mean, I think this is what this package is trying to get around with the Google Docs, but you know, on that's on one hand. On the other hand, it's like, well, you know, most people don't publish more than a handful of papers a year, so just throw them in there, which is what I've been doing all my life. I just want something to, you know, automatically update.
Yeah, that would be really nice. Yeah. Oh, yeah, so Eric made this public now, and so this is an example of CSS.
This is from a long
for
time
particular-
ago, and I don't remember. I don't think I wrote all of this. I must have copied it from somewhere and added things. Some of the stuff I added to it. Oh yeah, okay. So
Yeah,
this is
it was from the creator of this data-driven CV, our
Okay.
package. You probably took that CSS file and then modified it. So
Yeah,
at least
yeah.
it's like some ideas about how to change.
Yeah, I probably changed different stuff than is getting changed in this workshop. So it's just another place for people to look and see like what kind of stuff you can customize.
Well, and especially if you have strong feelings about like appearance of things, I think this is like a pretty big rabbit hole that you could fall down and just like spend a lot of time like fiddling with everything, which could be fun or good use of your time. So yeah, I wouldn't discourage anyone from doing that. Okay, does anyone have any other comments or questions? Sorry, there's a little bit of a crash course of like, here's a couple of things you can do to like modify how this looks. And yeah, like I think it just takes some sort of like poking around and trying stuff out to make it look like how you want it to. And I mean, I think you can like reorganize the orders of these sections and things like that. And I'm sure if you like want to change, you know, even more broad, like how things are organized, you probably could do that. Oh, what's this? Oh, automated publications list. Yeah.
So yeah, this is like the result of that script that I shared that like probably could be adapted to this R Markdown CV. And you know, you have to, so you have to have Zotero, you have to like have your publications in Zotero in the like my publications thing, and then you have to like get an API key. So there is like some setup stuff. But basically in that R code chunk there, it's getting your publications and spitting them out in a markdown compatible format. And the two like key things for getting that to work, one is there's a chunk option output as is. And this is also works in R Markdown. It means like to just print like literally the output as Markdown so that it'll get interpreted as Markdown. And then the other key is at the very end of this chunk, there's cat. And so cat is a little bit different than print. So normally when you like print an R object, it like, you know, it has all kinds of little extra decorators, like let you know that it's a vector or whatever, and has the like index numbers. Cat just like, again, like literally just prints it. Yeah, so
yeah, I think you would be able
happy to help if somebody wants to try to replicate this and they want to like they want help figuring this out. I'm happy to like help people, but this was just like in case you're interested. Probably won't work right out the box. Like
Eric, your CV tab on your website, is that PDF?
That is made with the Vitae package, which is one of the ones that Kristina mentioned at the very beginning. And so it is basically impossible for me to customize because I don't know LaTeX. And so I've been meaning for a long time to recreate my CV using something like this, like we're doing in this workshop, because not because I'm necessarily like more comfortable with CSS, but because I'd rather learn CSS than learn LaTeX, because CSS is a technology that is used to customize all kinds of anything HTML, anything web-based, right? Like customize the appearance of websites and things. And for me, it just feels more useful than learning LaTeX because I don't need to use LaTeX a lot.
Okay, yeah, because I built a Corta website and I've got my CV on there, but that was just, you know, uploading a PDF.
Yeah, that's what this is too. This is just a PDF. It's just a PDF that I happened to create using the Vitae package, but like that, all that stuff is like old and outdated, and I really need to like update it using something more like what we're learning today. Is
Yeah.
I hope to carve out some time at some point to do that.
Me too. This is really cool.
And that provides a nice tangent into this little bit that I was going to talk about that I also myself don't know a lot about, but I know we can figure it out, is that it's a good idea to take you know, your folder with all your CV or resume materials, turn it into a Git repository and put it on GitHub, because then you can do things like create a GitHub Pages website, and you can also put the PDFs and or HTMLs of your CVs like right on there. And so there are arguments in this use data-driven CV function for doing that. And you can see in like the documentation, oops, that's not the right repository. This is the repo for the data-driven CVR package, but yeah, so like this example that he has, like he had put his CV on his website, and so you can see that he has the PDF location listed as the location of the CV on his GitHub account, and then additionally where the source code is in that same repository for CV stuff. But then he also put, and I think that by doing this, he put the HTML of his CV like right on his website. So exactly how these things work are a little mysterious to me right now because I haven't actually done it myself, but there should be ways of sort of like putting your CV then easily online and on your website, like how Eric did with his. So this is a good example of how that sort of thing can work. But yeah, sorry, I don't know exactly how to do that, but I definitely could figure it out. So yeah, there was just a couple comments about like putting this stuff online. And then I think, yeah, that was kind of it, like for all the content. Yeah. And we can stick around for the last few minutes and talk through questions or whatever. But before folks head out, I did want to point out again that our group, which we're called CCT Data Science, we have drop-in hours every Tuesday morning that are virtual. So if you are working on this stuff and trying to customize your CV and you're encountering difficulties or can't figure out how to do something or want to do this, like putting it online, please come to our drop-in hours and we will help you. And then, yeah, we also have these incubator projects that we work on with people who are in Kale's departments. So if you want to work on like a short-term project with us where our time is covered to do things like, develop R code, feel free to reach out to us about that. On our website, we also have our other upcoming workshops. And that's that. And then there's a bunch of other resources for data science at University of Arizona. There are kind of a lot of things. This is just like part of what's available, but I do want to point out, because I'm organizing it, there's the Women in Data Science conference happening next month, in about a month. And so this is, it's women presenting, but anybody who wants to can come and watch people from the Tucson area, mostly from U of A, speak about, how they've used data science approaches in their work. There's also the ResBaz community, super awesome. They have a couple of events that happen weekly. And so that's on their website. And there's the data science Slack specific to U of A. So, and there's like a bunch of other things out there. Yeah, the libraries does a bunch of stuff. There's the Data Science Institute. So lots of things happening at U of A.
When is ResBaz?
When is the conference?
Yeah.
I think that they were looking at doing it mid-May.
Thank you.
So yeah, it'll be like close to the end of the year. Which that's a great thing too. I think they're trying out a slightly different, like again, a different hybrid format, but there'll be in the unconference style, there'll be like workshops and stuff. So, and ResBaz also has a Slack. They have like a Slack organization. That's a good place to stay in touch. Okay, there's a question here. Can you please explain the content at your website for your drop-in hours? Yes. Yeah, so our drop-in hours are Tuesday mornings. We use this platform called GatherTown. So if you want to come Tuesday morning at 9, you just have to click on this link and you should be able to join. And it's just like a virtual platform, but it's supposed to make it easier for people to like, talk in small groups or like wander around. So yeah.
So that image is a virtual meeting house. Is that what that is?
Yeah, and that's what it'll look like if you like go to, oops, not that. If you go to this link and put in your information.
Yeah, you can like walk around, there's
and,
different rooms and stuff. Yeah.
I usually use Chrome instead of Firefox for that, but yeah. Does that help? Hopefully.
I didn't know if that's supposed to be a physical building. Thank you.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's all virtual. Hopefully that's made clear on here. We should make sure it says virtual. But yeah, we want to make it easier for people to access, and online is still kind of the best way to do that. So yeah, if you want to come by and talk to us about anything or anything from this workshop or whatever, like, yeah, we love to chat to people. So yeah, and like I said, I will send out these slides, and I'll try to get some of these other links that we've shared like throughout the course of the workshop. I'll try to gather those and put them in an email too, and I'll send it out to everybody who's registered for this. And yeah, and if you create a super cool like resume or CV using these approaches, feel free to share it with us so that we can like be like, ooh, and know that like this led to, some good stuff for people. So yeah, otherwise, if people don't have other questions or anything right now, call it good. And thanks everyone for coming.